Already off to a crazy week. We are going to talk about some tinfoil hat on AMC and GameStop, then go into their charts, then go into the overall market and important things that happened with the Paramount deal if you haven't heard. And ultimately, I am going to compile the most important catalysts or things that have come out in this video. So watch until the end, like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn post notifications on. Without further ado, guys, let's get into it. First of all, we have a Roaring Kitty sighting. This has nothing to do with any tin, but they are at what looks like a Christmas party with his family. He's over here in the back left corner. Shout out Roaring Kitty. The guy is alive. His brother also posted over on Instagram, which I believe ties into some tin, is the Joker with the bag that Roaring Kitty basically posted right before he is about to rob the bank. There is no reason why he posted this on a random day, introduce a little anarchy, or at least I don't know. Then we have Ryan Cohen posting ice cream. One of the ice creams does not have sprinkles. The rest of them do. If you have tinfoil that you think you know what is going on with this, let me know in the comments down below. But the last time he posted an ice cream was February 24th, 2021. We just talked about what happened on February of 2021. We literally talked about it last night, correlated with something else before we got a Ryan Cohen tweet, which was the stock rallying 300 and then 800% in 1 to 3 weeks. So we could be right on the verge of that. But there is also other tin. He tweeted a frog when he tweeted this. As that sounds dumb, this is the exact setup of the timeline, Roaring Kitty's timeline. Did we reset? I don't know. I would love to hear thoughts in the comments down below. But we see that the frog, ice cream next to each other, and we're seeing it kind of pop up again. Not sure if that has any correlation to Ryan Cohen's tweet, right? I believe I had more on that, but for right now, I can't remember. Maybe we'll come back to it. Then we have AMC showing a showing of a movie at 8:01. Not sure if they're hinting at anything, but if you've been around since 2021, you know the Battle of 8:01 on AMC. If you don't know the Battle of 8:01 and you haven't been around that long, it is very significant, and all of these hints could be lining up that we are at the same setup that we saw in 2021. Plus, more tin before we jump into the charts. Citadel CEO Ken Griffin pays $43.2 million for a Constitution copy, outbidding Crypto Group. This was November 19th of 2021. GameStop just posted a copy of the Constitution again, or the original Constitution again. Could this be financial independence? Could this be something else? Could it be hinting at July 4th? Could it be hinting at Ken Griffin buying the Constitution? What are they doing here? But again, this could all be nothing. It's a trade-in. It was trade anything day, I believe. And then we have maybe nothing with Ryan Cohen's tweet. But normally when Ryan Cohen tweets, he normally has something behind it. The guy doesn't tweet too often. Then we have GameStop posting Galaxy bowling ball. Maybe the eyes. I don't know. Okay, all of that aside, right? All that aside, for anyone who doesn't care about the tin, and I don't blame you, it's too much. And sometimes you think too deep into it. But we look at the GameStop chart. What do we see? Well, we see that TradingView messed up my charts for some reason and decided to move some of my lines. But that's not the point. The point being is we did break above the 618 on the fib on the short time frame, which is basically at 2313. We are scaling above. We didn't get as hard of a pullback as we thought. In fact, we didn't even test the 0.5 on the fib. GameStop is still holding strong, remaining strength. What do we need here? We need one, more volume. That is one thing that we need. And then two, take a look at this. This is a chart that I brought up recently. We have this floor that GameStop is very unlikely to break. And then we have this wedge that it's playing out that it tested multiple times. Now, most of the time when we test this wedge, we get a hard rejection, and we recently just tested it and got a hard rejection. You are now testing a breakout out of the wedge. In fact, you're getting a 4-hour candle on top of this wedge. The last time you got that was basically back here in September, where you did come up, but there's so much resistance on it that it pushed it back down right before a conversion area, and then you came up, pushed it back down right before a conversion area again. And that's ultimately something we're going to watch for, Right now, how much room do we have? Well, we realistically have some room before we see a lot of pressure up towards $28. That's when we're going to see a lot of pressure, and that's a 20% gain. So, what are we risking coming into earnings? Earnings is tomorrow, and you're risking a move to the bottom of this wedge, right? Because this isn't what I'm calling for, but it's historically what GameStop has done. I mean, you test the top of the wedge, you get a very harsh crash. You test the top of the wedge, you get a very harsh crash. On earnings catalyst, too. Earnings was right here. Very hard crash. You test the top of the wedge. Earnings was right here, too. Hard rejection. Top of the wedge. Hard crash. Again. So you are unfortunately risking this flash down or hard crash to basically 1990. Okay, you're risking about probably a 13 to 20% drop, not 20, but probably 13% drop. We can test it. Yeah, basically a 13 to 15% drop to $20 or 1990 on earnings. Do I think that's going to happen? No. In fact, I will stay in my calls coming into earnings. Probably a ballsy move here, but I'm willing to risk it for this earnings coming around. And as far as if Bitcoin's going to kind of show our warning for earnings, there's a couple of things. The quarter ended September 30th, so that's what they're reporting on. They're reporting on a price of about 114,000 on GameStop, not 89,000. So that should show up positive on their balance sheet. Now, as investors will realize that they've actually lost money because of Bitcoin, that could already have been baked into the price. So there's no reason they should drop it on that. Secondly, the one thing we really want to see is GameStop's business model turned around without the investment in Bitcoin? Are their power packs doing well? Are whatever else they got going on their online marketplaces doing well? Is it bringing in revenue for the company? So far, the most recent earnings have been killing it on GameStop. So that is such a beautiful thing to see. Very excited coming into earnings. As far as AMC goes, you're up 2% on the day as well. Still building a base in this zone at $2.30. Still waiting for a move. They're going to move together, in my opinion, so we should see that. But the fact that we're seeing green is always a good thing. Now, this is important. The Fed will buy back a record $45 billion in debt every month from January of 2026. This should be so bullish for the markets that they are going to pump liquidity throughout 2026. Yet, why lottery sucks is the market dumping and the SPY dumping. There's two reasons. One, this is not an actual release from the Fed. This is from Bank of America's research team, and it's on the negative side. It's only from their team. It's not from the Fed. On the positive side for risk assets, on the good side, is that other banks, other analysts are predicting upwards of 45 billion, all the way up to 80 billion a month, monthly. Okay, monthly. That means risk assets will go to the absolute moon for 2026. If that is the case, and it seems to be the case because the Fed never wants to go the other route, otherwise that will lead to a market crash. Now, we have Japan government bonds 10-year yield rising, basically hitting 1.98%. We're still up 1% on the day. This is still cooking. This is still cooking. What does that mean? That means temporarily, even coming into 2026 right now, you could see turbulence, and the turbulence starts in the crypto market. That is why Bitcoin continues to fail to reclaim 90K. Altcoins continue to fail to gain breath, and the market continues to wobble. We continue to see turbulence on the market. Now you can see these trend lines are holding up very, very well. We reject off of the top, we gap down, we reject off of the top, climb down, and ultimately you come down and you test this midline every single time, this dotted line. You break under this, which if the SPY does today, then if we close under 683.70, then the SPY could have a candle all the way down to 681 or 679.20, right? And then beyond. Ultimately, what do you see? You see, for a Santa Claus rally, you actually see risk. You actually see risk for bulls coming into 2026, unfortunately. You actually see risk for bulls coming into 2026. When 2026 begins in January or February, when the Fed does their first liquidity injection, we could see these markets finally gain their moves higher. But that's not to say we will see a crash until then. It's just a warning that there are still underlying issues, even though the Fed will likely intervene with these markets. So, with all of that aside, there's also a couple of big announcements. Trump to sign, in quotes, one rule executive order on AI, which will be big for specific tech stocks. There must be only one rule book if we are going to continue to lead in AI. We are beating all countries at this point in the race, but that won't last long if we're going to have 50 states, many of them bad actors, involved in the rules and the approval process. There can be no doubt about this. AI will be destroyed in its infancy. I will be doing a one rule executive order this week. You can't expect the company to get 50 approvals every time they want to do something. That will never work. That will be big for a lot of big AI companies and AI as a whole. US layoffs also set to surpass the Great Recession levels and on track to be the worst since the Great Depression. We have to understand that even with the Fed's injection or intervention, they're really stuck in a rock and a hard place. But you never want a market crash. The Fed never wants a market crash. They will likely end up loading back up on equities and we see a huge move up in 2026. But at some point, the system will need some sort of very harsh correction. And we are still seeing liquidity concerns in the banks, the repo market being very active, and coming into 2026, there is still a big warning. Fed chair candidate Kevin Hassett says President Trump will announce a huge positive economic catalyst this week. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's the AI thing. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it will pump the markets. And if so, you should see that roll over to risk on assets like GameStop and AMC. Long story short, all of this, before we get into the Warner Bros. Deal, is that GameStop and AMC, they benefit off of volatility and fast changes. So a flash crash in the markets or any whipsaw in the markets, a VIX spike, right? They benefit off of that. They benefit off of positions not being timely enough to be moved, margin calls, collateral rising, things like that. Lots of pressure. They benefit on carry trade, swaps, pressure on the swaps. They also benefit on the flip side. In Fed intervention and a pump for and boost for risk on assets, they benefit on that. Short sellers get rugged. Short sellers don't want to come into a year where the Fed is betting against them. Okay? And there's excess money. Trump says he will be involved in the final decision on Netflix's $72 billion acquisition of Warner Bros. And whether it violates antitrust laws. Trump warns the deal could be a big problem. Now, I'll roll the clip for you, but before I do that, Paramount launched a $108 billion hostile bid to buy Warner Bros. Discovery in an attempt to outmaneuver Netflix after the streaming giant won an auction for the media company last week. So Netflix won an auction to buy Warner Bros. Last week. Then Trump came out and said, yeah, we don't know if we're going to let this deal come through, actually. And then now we are seeing that Paramount likely got the deal. PSKY, Paramount Skydance Corporation, is up 6.3% on this deal. And this deal is to, and actually, in fact, Netflix is down about 4%. I would watch for a hold at this fib at 94.40 or so. Warner Bros., ticker symbol WBD, is up 6%. And it's not at the fair value yet. In fact, because Paramount is buying necessarily a value of $30 a share for Warner Bros. So shareholders of Warner Bros. Have been doing extremely well. This is also psychological resistance. I see a possible top right there. I'm not sure what the short interest is at for this one, but it's probably too late to play. IV's probably through the roof, but I just thought that was interesting. I will be rolling that Trump clip for you. I'll just roll it towards the end of the video so that you can see it. And then as far as, I'm going to really try to remember, there's a couple things I need to address for the comments, and one was turning my outro volume down. I'm sorry. A lot of people have been complaining about the outro volume being too loud. I'll try and fix that and make it like permanent. Yeah, that's basically all I have to address. I was going to address something else, but it's kind of useless. But I'll address it very briefly anyway. The people complaining, there's not many of you, and I don't address the haters too often. But I'll just say it very clearly, calm, open-minded, clear-headed. And it's that I am not leaving bots in the comment section, nor do I want them there. I have probably 1,000 hours in removing bot comments and banning keywords, and I can prove I've already posted. I have over 500 banned words on my channel from deleting these bastard comments. I've also reached out to Team YouTube, and if you have one brain cell at most, you can see that it's on other channels as well. So if you try and utilize that single brain cell, you probably won't comment about me leaving the bots or wanting the bots on my channel. Just try and, get the mechanics rolling a little bit in your brain. But that's for the haters. Everyone else showing support, appreciate all the love and support you guys show on the channel. There are 2 links in the description. One will take you to the Discord server, the trading group. If you're not in, make sure to join right now. I am very, very convinced that the Discord will pay for itself within the first week. Okay? If it doesn't, and I can't guarantee anything, if it doesn't, cancel the membership. Seriously, there's not much more to say. If you are so worried about taking your step forward, there are probably other aspects of life where you're not doing the same thing, and you need to be ready to take that risk. And that I wouldn't be saying that if I wasn't confident the Discord wasn't going to pay for itself. We have also the most amazing people in there, best vibes, best family. So join. That's the top link in the description, or you can join through LaunchPass. It's probably the 3rd link. They will both take you to the server. And if you want my custom indicator, that link is also in the description down below. You can get it for 7 days for free. That is it, guys. I love you all. God bless. Lottery Stocks out.